Welcome to the March meeting of the Big Hole Watershed Committee. Great to see everyone here. We're going to start as we always do. Pass the mic, introduce yourself and who you're representing so we all know, put a face to a name. I'm Pedro Marquez. I'm the Executive Director of the Big Hole Watershed Committee.
Andy Bowler from Butte. Tom Bowler from Butte.
Valerie from Butte.
Jenna Doman, representing the Montana Bureau of Mines and Geology.
Jim Higginbarth, the rancher around Glen.
I'm Jim number 2 with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks.
Craig Fallon, outfitter, Wise River. Mangles, we're at the Big Hole River Retreat. We used to farm north of Dillon. Now I'm just a retired farmer. So my wife now.
Richard Griffin, I'm the Wisdom District Acting District. Our ranger will be here in 2 weeks, so we'll have a new face. And I'm also the District Fire Management Officer.
Matt Lacey, I'm a wildlife biologist with the Beaverhead Deer Lodge in Wisdom.
I'm Charlie Iver. I'm the property manager for the Elkhorn Ranch, just upstream of Wise River.
Jim Dennehy, Butte.
Jim Keenan, I guess Jim number 4, Butte Silver Bowl Water Utility.
Randy Smith, rancher at Glen.
Jim number 3 here. Oh, that's Horses Club Campground, just up the river.
Gary Oldhouse, Anaconda Sportsman's president.
I'm Lacey Decker. I'm the outdoor rec planner for the BLM, the Dillon Field Office. Brandy Jamzin, Assistant Field Manager in Butte. BLM.
Katie Stevens, Western Montana District Manager with BLM in Butte.
Haley Sir, Public Access Investigator for Public Land Water Access Association.
I'm Board Programs Manager for the Big Hole Watershed.
I'm Tana Olson, the Associate Director of the Big Hole Watershed.
All right. And we've got several folks online with us today. Hello, everybody. Welcome and thank you for joining. All right, we'll get started as we always do. DNRC was not able to be here to provide the streamflow report, so I will read it off. Do you want to share it? Do you want me to? You got it. Okay. So, snowpack in the Big Hole is currently 88% of NRCS median values. However, the modeled Ipsami sweet value, those of you that have been to these meetings before, that funky graph that DNRC that Matt always shows, that's actually at 109%. And that's a 2004 to 2023 average. It's coming up here. We are going to take this projector in to get the resolution figured out because we recognize that this is very blurry. Not great. So the modeled snowpack for the basin indicates that the lower elevation is well above average. So this, when he says modeled snowpack, that's this Ipsami SWE. That's just a more, I guess, all-encompassing way to measure the moisture on the mountains and in the air. So lower elevation is well above average, mid-range snowpack slightly above average, slightly below average, high elevation is at average. Below are the current snowtail observations, as well as percent median for individual sites across the watershed. You kind of see those there. Basin Creek looking good. Yeah, we'll keep going. And then down below the next graph, we got the snow water equivalent. You can see it, the light green line is kind of the median. So we're sort of chugging along just below it. This is a median of the last 30 years. So we're talking 1990 to now. Is that right? Is that 30? Total precip in the Big Hole is currently below median values, about 81% for the year. And this was probably either earlier today or yesterday. So maybe not, doesn't account for what's going on in the skies today. So then the 8 to 14 day outlook predicts below average temps and leaning above average precipitation for the next 2 weeks. And then moving forward, the sort of 3-month outlook, March, April, May predicts below normal temperatures to equal chances of average precip. As far as NOAA, sort of the ENSO alert system, this is the final, that's not going to happen. So La Nina has ended and ENSO neutral conditions are expected to continue through the Northern Hemisphere into spring and summer. Neutral being the, it could kind of go either way. More snow, more rain, less rain, we don't know. Okay, any questions? You'll know the drill. I can't answer these questions. All right. Okay, yep, the weather. We depend on it and it's outside. Slideshow. I'm gonna start with my notes here. It is hard to sort of just cherry pick the main stuff. I'll just give you guys just a little bit of an up. As we said, after our governing board meeting, a lot of opportunity in front of us. A lot of work that we're getting very efficient at doing, and then not more capacity to get it done. So we want to just match our capacity with the opportunities that are presenting themselves and do it in a smart way. So we have a conservation fellow from Montana Conservation Corps. We've got a hire pending. We did interview a wonderful gal from Ohio who just kind of checked all the boxes and was a pleasure to talk to and is super eager to be here. So if all goes well, she'll be living out of the FWP's new acquisition on Willow Creek from May to October, and will be, everywhere we need her to be, and she's ready to, swing shovels and hodads and build beaver dams and monitor water and all the other good stuff that we do. So that's exciting. Our first dip into that we've got Peyton Butler, who was contracted for us just to run social media and just be more on top of our communications. We'll get her into our YouTube channel, kind of making more shorts. And it's really just an effort to get more of the good work that we're doing out there so people see it. They get interested in what we're doing, and this sort of snowballs into more opportunities and projects for us. And lastly, kind of on the financial side of things, we are going to get a line of credit just so we can really do these reimbursable contracts and not have contractors waiting on payments for stuff. We are, because of the way this contract game works in these grants, right? We partner with the conservation district who gets a grant from the DNRC. So by the time, we get the money to pay a contractor, it's taken a long time. 60 days didn't even cut it for some of our, so we got hit with a first time ever for a bill for interest accrued on a project from a contractor because we just couldn't get the money out in time. It wasn't our fault. I drove through 2 blizzards to pick up a check in my hands to go take it to the bank. But anyway, this will give us a little bit of insurance and allow us to be a good partner for our contractors. We don't want anyone hanging out there with money out. So that's on its way. It'll take a little bit. I'll run through some proposals that we're working on. The Bureau of Reclamation's Water Smart program. When I presented this last month, I was going to throw every irrigation project that we had on tap into this one application. It turns out they don't like that. They don't like us trying to be efficient in bundling all these projects because they have to do environmental review of every single project. And it just didn't seem like a viable deal. So we've sort of shrunk down what that proposal looks like, and we're just going to go after everything at Pennington Bridge. We've spoken about before. We have 4 alternatives that were developed to try to prevent a disaster down at that bridge. The river has basically been forced into a hard S-turn. It's going to potentially impact bridge infrastructure, road infrastructure, a fishing access site, irrigation water, and fisheries. So by installing these 4 alternatives, I think we can the county will be very happy, Madison County will be very happy to have this potential liability off of their hands and do it in a way that, restores ecological processes and natural functions and maintains that really popular fishing access site. So we've been hustling around. The first step of these things is always hustling around with our partners to see who's interested, who's supportive. So as of right now, we've got Anaconda Sportsmen. Thank you guys. Sound like they're supportive of the project. Skyline Sportsmen have signed on. I met with them. George Grant Trout Unlimited has signed on. Jim is working a letter up Fish, Wildlife, and Parks chain, which that process now takes a whole lot longer than it ever used to. So we got to be way ahead of the ball, especially for agencies to get letters. And then we're talking to all the local landowners as well to get letters from them. So when you get all those letters in a proposal, it just bumps your chances of getting it right. So that's from that one. Yep. The BOR has another pot of money for small scale irrigation efficiency improvements. I think the Wise River, Jerry Creek stuff might fit really well with that program that's later in the year. So we're kind of taking that big wish list and having to break it up and find individual pots of money for each one. The one down by Melrose is still don't know what to do with that one. We are getting those designed. We have design money from ARP. So we're going to get Wise River, Jerry Creek, and the Melrose project all designed this year. So they'll be basically shovel ready. And then it's just a matter of getting the construction dollars for those. And then the last thing, NIFWIF has this America the Beautiful, these challenge grants, and we've got a couple things cooking. We were talking about one with the forest. So the major pots are applied for by states or state entities or tribes. And then there's two other pots, one that can be applied for by nonprofit groups like ours, and it's for forestry related work. So we've been kind of talking with the Forest Service about potentials there. And then we're going to piggyback on a proposal that Montana Conservation Corps is going to put in for basically expanding their labor force that they can bring to projects in our part of the state. My proposal to them is, hey, there's a lot going on in Southwest Montana. We could use some capacity. So we're trying to piggyback on to an existing proposal. It was the highest ranking proposal out of Montana last year in this NIFWIF grant round. So that seems like an easy thing to piggyback on top of, and the grant's pretty much already written. So that's not a really big lift. It seems like easy pickings for me. One thing on the ARPA stuff to let you all know for the governing board, it's been something that I've thought about for a long time and never really dove into, but now I have to have is a procurement policy. So big old Watershed committee is going to have to develop a document that describes how we go about procuring contractors. So when we get state money or federal money, then we have to kind of have a process. So for me to get reimbursed for this ARPA design money, that's one of the requirements that I've got to present with any invoice. Pretty much I'll kind of carbon copy what the conservation districts have, but make it applicable to us. What I think for governing board members this will require is us to form a subgroup that commits to reviewing all solicitations that go out. You know, if we have to get 3 bidders, I'll need more than just me deciding on which bidder is the most qualified, right? I think you guys, you've done this in the past, I believe, with other work. So that's coming down. That's a new document that we've got to write. Ben will cover all the restoration stuff that's more active, and that is a huge list as well. So I'm going to try to go fast. Conservation funds, things are moving up. You'll see a lot more ways to get involved in supporting our projects around the watershed this year. We handed out 7 of these framed maps to longtime partners and key businesses in the watershed. And we've got the first write-up. We've got basically the language from our attorney of the agreement that we're going to hopefully be signing soon with Sunrise Fly Shop, where they will actually be an authorized agent of the Big Old Watershed Committee, where they can ask all their clients to contribute a percentage of their bill that goes directly into our conservation fund. We kind of have to structure this correct for taxes and all those purposes, so it doesn't hit their books as income. Long story short, we're figuring out how to partner with private businesses that want to put their value in conservation, want to put their brand and sort of relate their brand to the conservation work that we're doing. That's really exciting. And along with that, so 2 things that we'll be getting into this year. One is a partnership with Montana Public Radio. They wanted to do some spots about our work and just get us on the airwaves. MTPR is about to boost its Butte station. So public radio signal is actually not going to be the awful spotty thing that we currently get, where you know what hill where you start losing it and it goes down and it comes back and all that. That's going to go away. It looks pretty exciting. And Montana Public Radio is also the co-sponsor of the Butte Folk Fest, and I've talked to those folks, and they're interested in having us have a volunteer presence at water filling stations. So another opportunity to kind of engage the public, get them understanding the work that we do and ways to contribute directly to the conservation of the Big. That's it, except for this. Just for the calendar, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and the BLM are going to have this celebration, I guess, of the Seymour Creek Big Hole River land acquisition. That was a pretty big deal. The Watershed Committee sent in several letters of support for this project. This was the first project, I believe, I don't want to say in Montana. It was one of the first projects after LWCF got fully funded annually in Congress. So this is one of the first chances that Rocky Mountain Up Foundation had to use those funds for an acquisition. So that'll be happening there and we'll have a big presence there. Okay, I'm done. Any questions?
Just to let you know too, we're gonna hold that at the campground.
Oh, all right. Is it at the campground? Cool. That's perfect.
The fun part.
Yeah.
The serious part, but yeah, oh, no.
You gotta love it.
You're not going to make our distinguished guest walk up the hill. It'd be fun. Awesome. That's great. Yeah. So the way it works, and it was explained to me, depending on if there's no federal or state money involved, we write it the way for however we want. We procure however the heck, similar to you as a private business, you hire who you want. If the state money, the thresholds are different between state and federal. So if there's federal money involved, you have to use the finest mesh screen. It has to pass through the finest screen. So with the feds, it's $10,000. It has to be at least a competitive bid. So you have to get at least 3 quotes, but it's not necessarily a quote. You have to get 3 proposals. You decide on the most qualified, and then you negotiate price. So, and we write this out in our document. We write it out the way we want, and we can specify, right? For this threshold, this is how we're going to do it. $50,000, this is how we're going to do it, right? Most of the time, anything we get into that's a larger dollar contract, like with our big construction jobs, those are all open public bids. Usually there's state or federal money involved. And so that's the screen that we have to use. Does that make sense? Yeah. It shouldn't be it should be hopefully more of a cut and paste exercise, but we'll see. Procurement's it's never really easy or fun, but that's what I'm here for. Okay. Anything else? Some of us just recently found out. Any questions? Okay. I've only been doing this for 4 years. What's next? Steering committee. We haven't met yet. We're going to meet in March at some point. You guys got anything though? Thanks, Jim. Usually it's silence, and I take that as a compliment. That's just awesome. Okay, and then we're going to Ben, wildlife first. Okay, and you're going to do all the things, right?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Oh, well.
No, I just screwed it up. Yeah. No, where's the Zoom? He's in there somewhere. Here he is. Loud. I got to do that display thing again. Hold on. Here, turn it. While I mess with this.
2023 communication. Pedro mentioned we hired a social media contractor, Peyton. She's doing a great job already, so we'll see some more content from shorts on YouTube. We're working on our spring newsletter, which should come out hopefully this May. And then our 2023 monthly meetings. In April, we'll be talking about weeds. May, restoring grasslands with graphics. June will be our fishery update with Jim 2. And then in August, we'll be hearing from Cole Mannix about the Old Salt Co-op, which is a direct farm to market program. So more about that. And then in June, we will have our wildlife speaker series event that we do each year. This year we'll be doing macroinvertebrates at the Melrose Bar on June 14th. And we should be hearing from the Clark Fork Watershed Education Program. And that event is a lot of fun. We'll have some food too. We haven't quite worked out the details of that, but it's from 6 to 8 p.m. and it's a lot. It's a much more casual event than educational, and it's a fun one. So might want to try and make it down there. As far as wildlife in 2023, we are gearing up to do our carcass removal season again. We've had a bit of a delay because the dump truck that we normally use is snowed in at the Red Rock Lakes National Wildlife Refuge down near Monite, but Fish and Wildlife and Parks is going to let us borrow a dump trailer. Actually, they purchased it for carcass removal in the big hole, so we'll be borrowing it long term. They're just outfitting it. It's in the bottom photo here, and they're just outfitting it with rails and a heavy duty winch and a ramp. And then hopefully we'll be getting it anytime, any day now at the compost site in Wisdom, and then we'll start doing carcass removal. We take those carcasses to our compost site right outside of Wisdom, just break them down into what you see in the top right hand corner there, basically dirt with some bones. And we do that to try and keep predators from moving into private ranches and getting themselves in trouble and causing depredations on ranches. So contributions this year, FWP of course is letting us use their trailer. John Jackson each year lets us use his tractor to turn the compost, move the carcasses around, and then Tash T Diamond, Post and Pole, and Polaris donates wood chips for the composting process. And then just a quick personal note, I'm going on maternity leave next week. It's boy, so I'll be out all of April, unlimited hours in May, and then she goes back in June. Today.
I just think of interest. Holland Ranch has about 4 guard dogs from outside the front. Not we're more aggressive to out them on the forest and the house. It would be very interesting.
Great, that sounds good. Thanks, Jim.
Can you have them? I mean, we'd love to learn, right?
Oh, yeah.
From their experiences.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Whether we do it or not.
Yeah.
You guys will have to help make sure that we keep the boat afloat while Tana's gone.
Oh, yeah.
Pedro and I are gonna be.
It's not gonna be pretty.
Yeah.
Imagine this without her.
Yeah. Next month's meeting's gonna look a little different. Well, cool, guys. I'll keep my update pretty brief this month. Really what my workload's consisted of is a lot of project planning. This is a good time of year for me to do that, to really gear up for the pretty big list of projects that we have on board coming up this season. So it's not negative for me. A lot of project planning, like I said, and then some grant writing. Pedro hit on that. I'm certainly involved in some of that. So I'll hit on the highlights. One of those being this Eastern Pioneers work that we've been involved with for a couple of years now. Partnered with the BLM, we've partnered with the Nature Conservancy and Sean Claffey. And we've been moving and grooving on that project. Last year, we did 2 tributary reaches, one a tributary reach to Browns Gulch, and another one was a tributary to Trapper Creek. We did 60 in-stream low-tech structures in both of those, and we're going to continue to do that work this year in Browns Gulch, and we've been calling it 502. It's just the BLM's nomenclature of the particular reach is what they used in their environmental assessment, but I'm running with it. And here's the particular reach. Melrose is up here, Dillon's down here, Twin Bridges is right here. Here's McCartney Mountain. And so we're going to come in here and we're going to plug about 80 in-stream low-tech structures in here, but we're also going to come in and do 23 acres of conifer removal in the riparian area. I actually wrote up the scope of work this last month, working with the BLM on getting everything out there. I got it out to bid. So it's open in the streets right now. Bid closes next week. I've got a lot of good, I've got some interested parties. I've already got a contractor who's giving me a bid on that. So that's really encouraging. This will be the first project of our season that we get out on the ground cutting conifer. So I'm thinking we're going to get this one done in April, which I'm excited about. Dust off my chainsaw and get out of the office and go to work for like a day and then say bye. So that's all good news. Also, the permitting front on the riparian component, I got that in. That's on its way through the Army Corps of Engineers right now. So I think by the time it works its way through the Army Corps, I get that permitting back from that, it will be just on time for our summer implementation on Brownsville. So a lot of good things happening in the Eastern Pioneers, all on BLM land. Another thing that's happening right now is our Smith Sage Springs restoration project. That was out to bid for the last 2 months. We put that out. You talk about procurement. This was one where we actually had to put it out. I got it through the Montana Standard and Dillon Tribune, and it's been public for 2 months. The project just closed at the beginning of this month, March 1st, and we got 3 bids, and been working on screening those bids and going through the process of picking that contractor, but we're gonna pick one by Friday, and that's exciting because I think everyone's been qualified, and I think that the contractor who we are gonna pick is very qualified in this restoration work and been doing it for many years. They actually came in a bit above what we had budgeted for, and it's been great working with Jim McGee and the Fish and Wildlife Service because he was able to go shake the tree and get us to fully fund it on that project. So that's very encouraging. This one, Smith Sage Springs, is going to happen in the fall. So we're all permitted for that. And that's a large scale meadow restoration project outside of Wisdom. So very, very cool project coming down the pipe there. Pedro talked about the BOR Water Smart grant here. It's really hard to see on this, but this is basically the schematic that Great West Engineers helped us develop over the last couple of years of the different types of projects that we should do in this area. One for natural resources, but also two to help with the infrastructure there in the Burma and the Pennington Bridge. And to make a long story short, we have design for projects 1, 2, and 3. This next proposal is to get us that construction dollar and also to add to some design for some irrigation infrastructure issues below the bridge, and then some fisheries enhancement above the bridge on some private land. So a lot happening on Pennington. You know, with all these projects, it just takes a while, but once we get the ball rolling, we're off to the races, and we're certainly off to the races at Pennington, lower section of Big Hole here. And then I also wanted to highlight this conservation fellow. I'm pretty excited about it because last month I talked about all the projects that we have going on, and it's like 11 or 12. And this intern is going to help me out a lot in the field. Her name's Allie, and Pedro mentioned she's from Ohio. She's just graduated. Or she still has to graduate, and then she's excited to come out to Montana. She's never been, so we're interviewing her, and she's very confident, and she did a great job in her interview. But it's just fun to think about. Like, wow, you have no idea what you're in for. You've been to Colorado on a ski trip once in high school, and so I'm excited for her to have this new experience. And she's gonna be coming to all of our meetings, and I encourage you guys to introduce yourself to her and make her feel like home when she gets to Montana. It'll be in May until October. And really, I'm going to just have her shadow me around. Pedro's going to have her shadow him around when the time's right, and she's going to help alleviate the workload here. So knock on wood, everything goes well. I'm excited about it. I'll keep it short. I'll keep it brief for there. You guys have any questions? Right.
Any new business, anything that wasn't on the agenda that folks want to bring up? All right.
Just a couple things. Last year I got whipped up pretty good on the cloud seeding, so we're not going to the legislature this year. I'm trying to work within the law and do a pilot. Two of the best places to do the project would be in the Centennials or in the Big Hole Valley. Because of the work Idaho Power is doing, you might get a break by using data and stuff like that. Craig Fallon called me up the other day and was quite concerned about the continued decrease in precip and pressure that's going to put on the river and on the outfitter, trying to come up with a way to increase the amount of flow where it's needed for the grading. Of course, we're looking at a dam, not a dam project, but an underground dam project. Yeah, but in Craig is interested in wells, and 1 CFS is 450 gallons per minute. So we're looking into that. We have to understand the law and try to figure out. I doubt if you could pump from the same aquifer that has groundwater storage as a result of the irrigation. You probably have to go deeper with that. But that's certainly an option, probably the cheapest option we have if we work. If you do find another aquifer that has the amount of water we need, then you have to test the water to make sure that it's compatible with the fish and everybody else. So we'll be working on that some and trying to figure out if that's a possibility and working with HEC, because they have a lot of information in regards to groundwater and probably wells, and maybe they can get some on some oil wells that were drilled up there to see where the water was. So that's all I had.
Okay.
That's all we had.
Follow up on this. That was very.
Yeah.
The city of Tucson, Arizona has recharged their aquifer for the past 20 years by distributing water diverted from the Colorado River. They have no city-free water rights. The natural and man-made recharge basins that form temporary lakes that slowly seep into the aquifer. Deep wells have been excavated. Jeanette, what's her name, Abdo. Jeanette Abdo, the Tucson had to go 800 to 2,000 feet to find their aquifer. Jenna said that we wouldn't have to go nearly that deep into the aquifer, but water is pumped out in Tucson and shipped through pipelines to customers. They've been doing this for 20 years. The Big Hole Watershed Committee could do the same on the upper Big Hole, pump cold water from the aquifer into the river and benefit Arctic grayling during low and warm water periods from mid-July to early September. To replenish the aquifer, water that has been diverted to natural or man-made basins during high flows in the main stem of the river in April through early July, when slowly seeped into the aquifer. He was busy, but really didn't talk to him very long. So I came up with pros and cons. Water quality in a deep well would need to be tested and could be a problem, especially if the grayling don't like the water from the deep well. Water rights could make this project a non-starter. Location of a well or two wells might be a problem. The benefits, pros, compared to building a low off-stream storage dam, the idea would be much less expensive. Liability would be a non-issue. The project could probably be started in a matter of months and be finished in time to benefit the grayling this summer. Probably have to be the following summer. This project could possibly make the difference between having the grayling listed and living under consequences of that ruling if they were listed, and having the grayling not be listed. I think it would show the judge who would be deciding on this suit, that the Big Hole Watershed is doing everything it can to protect the Arctic grayling in the Big Hole River. So that's what Jim and I are going to follow through on. And Jenna, you're Jeanette.
I'm Jenna.
Oh, you're Jeanette. Okay, so Jeanette with the BLM. Okay. Jeanette is with you're with the BLM. Oh, okay. So that there are several watersheds in the state that are looking at this watershed, and the watershed are the closest watersheds that are really going to take a look at this, and would like to do a pilot project on this concept in the Big Hole. She said there's a lot of money out there from the recently passed bill by President Biden signed it. So she said there's plenty of funding to do a test pilot project.
Question on it, maybe Jim and some of you guys are gonna water rights better. You can make sure it stays in the current.
I don't know what work. You guys have working rights.
Yeah, that's better job.
Not off season. They're year round, according to that. Yes, so you wouldn't be putting. I mean, that's the county.
No, I'm just saying like a senior, what would you your water right now than how do we keep it there?
That's an issue up there. But the water.
No, yeah, I'm not saying that, but it's going down.
Going down the creek.
Pretty tough to start it out once it's.
Right. Yeah, I've never seen everyone park water successfully.
I think that's a possibility, given the fact that unless you're in the CCAA, if you start taking grain because there's not enough water, that changes a lot of minds.
Yeah, and I think from last, this is a great sort of building off of last month's conversation about all the different ways that we could potentially store water, right? No matter what, once that water's in the stream, cooperation and folks calling each other has so far worked, right, to prevent the worst outcomes. And I guess, we just keep pushing the limit of how far we can get with cooperation. But at the end of the day, Montana water law, rules the day. And if there's a senior right and water going by it and they want to take it, that's nothing stops that. Even if we had a giant reservoir, we still have the same issue, right? So that never goes away. Maybe just a last little bit to follow up on that. We did do some following up on, last month we talked about kind of these wetlands as a concept without embankments, digging them down. From the collective exercise that we did at that meeting, I have a map with 250 CFS worth of late season storage. They're dots on a map. Now we're going to take the next step to start vetting all of those and see where the most potentially viable locations would be. I did get an indication from DNRC that this isn't anything official, but it just sounds like the idea of taking pre-irrigation season water is one that a lot of folks see as viable. So the diversion of water prior to April 1 to fill or put that water somewhere where it could be then available later season. But then there's always questions about water rights with all of this stuff. And so we're going to sort through some of that. I'm going to actually be visiting with the Freedom Ranch here, who they're putting in a pond, and that's been all pre-approved and it's part of their deal. And I'm going to talk to a guy in Missoula who's a water rights expert that helped them get that one in. And just really, I got a lot of understanding to do about water rights without going too far down into that rabbit hole, because I don't think you'll ever see me again if I go too deep. So I think that's it. That's a lot of good stuff. Please keep us following anything you all learn that you want us to share out, please do, or just keep the conversations going internally. I think there's a lot of
It's going to be a water conference on this in Deer Lodge for the Cloud Club. So I'm going to try to go to that, and it'd be great if you could go. And Jim, hopefully, Jim can go also.
awesome. Okay. So we'll seed the clouds and we'll pump the aquifers and we'll build wetlands. That sounds better to me than building a giant dam. That's just and cut conifers. Thank you. Okay. All right. We actually have time to chit chat and mingle. So have a snack. we will keep refilling the coffee. The coffee pot's disappeared on us today, so the coffee's a little light. Oh, we got. Yeah, please.
I just want to let everybody know that my 30 days on the Main Rock project, I think I was here in November. I think that was when I did that. 30 days is up. The decision record is to my field manager right now. I got one comment and it was positive. So whoever actually read my document, thank you. Nice feeling. So that's all I have to say on Main Rock. So I wanted to thank you guys for that.
Let the BLM start talking and then nobody gets a snack. Just real quick, I wanted you guys to be aware of a few things we have going on in Western District. One is that we have our Resource Advisory Council starting back up again. There's some folks from this part of the world that we're going to be on that and super excited about that. So maybe some topics that group addresses that are relevant to this group. We also have put forward a proposal to focus restoration funding in more restoration funding in the Dillon area through the bipartisan infrastructure law. And it looks pretty good based on the success that you guys and other folks are helping us have, that may get funded. So want partners to be aware of. We have a couple ramp improvements going on right now at Jerry Creek and Divide. And those are going to be running through about May. So we're looking at ways to help the outfitting community and the private boaters and fishermen with those during that period. And then we're also doing a couple of things on migration corridors over the next year and have some recreation focus groups coming up in June to help focus our recreation on how people like to use the area and why it's important instead of just what activities they like to do. So a bunch of stuff going on in this part of the world for BLM right now.
Super. Okay. Anyone want to get in the way of everyone else's coffee and snack? All right, let's snack up and I will try to get us back. I'll touch base with Dave to see how much time she wants and then we'll reconvene when I get on the mic. Thanks. So for tonight, we have Haley Sir talking about public land water access. So let's turn our attention to her and what she's got to share with us. Thanks very much for sharing.
Thank you so much. They've given me coffee and a microphone. Let's see where it goes from here.
If you want to point her
perfect.
here, think that I don't know if that's plugged into there, so you might have to forward manually, but use the laser.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for sticking around to hear me chat about Public Land Water Access Association. I really appreciate the time. I met Ben at a GGTU meeting with George Grant Trout Unlimited. They're great partners of us. They've put a lot of time and energy into what we do. And so Ben thought maybe I could share with you all what we work on. Just to get started, I guess I will try to figure out the clicker.
Yeah, click on the machine.
There we go. Can I just get a quick nod or a hand raise? Who has heard of PLWA or knows what we do or has been involved in any of our work? Oh, Colleen, hey, that's good. Yay. Awesome. Usually it's about 1%, so that's great. So we're actually an organization that's been around for quite a while, since 1985, in fact. And we have been here maintaining and perpetuating public access to public land since then. As you all may know, 29% of your land here in Montana is in fact public land. We can't necessarily access all of that, but yeah, that's what we're here to do is our mission. Oops, I'm sorry. Us as an organization, I guess I'll give you a little bit more of a background. So we are 3 staff members currently. We have our executive director, Drew Haynes, myself, the public access investigator. I'll tell you what I do a little later on. And then we just hired on a part-time director of volunteer services, Ashley Helm. She's been helping us kind of coordinate all of our events, get the word out to folks and recruit volunteers. We have a robust board of directors. We have great board members. Bernard Lee has been our president for many, many years, a past Forest Service employee. He's a great wealth of knowledge. If anybody's interested in becoming a board member, please let me know. We have 2 open spots. We are going to be doing an in-person meeting, yay, finally this year. Hopefully, probably in Bozeman. We're going to do a big event, concert, meet, all the fun things. And we will be hopefully recruiting 2 more board members at that time.
Is that girl also?
She used to work for DEQ. She's retired now, but she's been our longtime secretary. Yeah. And then of course, big thank you to our lifetime members. These folks help us coordinate events, of course, donate money, and have just been great supporters over the past few years. So going back, sorry, what we do to safeguard your access. So our mission is to maintain, perpetuate and restore public access to all of Montana's public lands and waters. We don't really fuddle in the management of those lands or what goes on those lands. Really, our mission is up to the border of those lands. Can we access those lands and can we maintain and perpetuate that access? The way we go about that is we educate and inform the public about their public access rights. We are all public landowners in the state of that 29% of the land. So with that comes some rights and responsibilities. We do that through coming to events like this, brewery events where we get to talk to people. We are educating through some programs I'll talk about here in a little bit. We've got all kinds of stuff going on. But one of the main jobs that I have is to work with the public on investigating access issues. So those come in via phone or email or through our forums online. And then it's my job to kind of navigate that, try to come to a resolution, figure out how we can gather evidence and gather facts, verify that it's a public access issue, and come to a resolution. I will say that PLWA is there when legal action needs to be taken. Far, far less than 10% of our cases actually go to some sort of litigation, but we are there for that purpose if somebody can't afford to take something or they've been improperly fined. We have an issue right now. Somebody's been fined for trespassing. They were in the right. They still got the ticket. It still went to court. It was dismissed, but now they have all these fines and legal fees that they cannot afford. So we can be there to help in that case. We also do a little bit of monitoring public land sales and exchanges and purchases. Crazy Mountain Land Exchange, maybe rings a bell. That's one we're deep into. We just submitted comments on that. We're waiting to hear back from the forester. And then of course it's legislative session. So we all tighten up around this time of year, but we're there to really just support any laws or policies that benefit public access. But that is also a year-round task. So when it comes to access, we're looking at all different kinds of access issues. So the kind of things that we focus on are county road right-of-ways. A county road is a public highway by definition. Typically, not always, but most of the time, they have a 60-foot right-of-way easement. So that's 30 foot from the center line on either side. We also work a lot with access issues and when the stream access and bridge access laws come about. We work on illegal obstructions or illegal posting. We're seeing more and more no trespassing signs pop up on public lands, definitely becoming more common. We do a little bit with prescriptive use, although I'm going to skip over this. This is a whole nother can of worms, but we do, if you've been hunting or your family's been hunting an area for 50+ years, a new landowner moves in, puts a gate up, we'll look into it, but prescriptive use has a whole nother world to live in. We also look at recreational use of state lands, and then unfortunately hunter and angler harassment, which we have seen an increase in those cases over the last year or so. So who do we work with? First and foremost, we work with the public, any concerned citizens that come forth with an access issue. I understand that some of these agencies are sitting in the room, or representatives of these agencies are sitting in the room today. So first and foremost, thank you if you've ever taken my call about an access issue. I appreciate you taking the time. Second of all, I apologize if this is the first time we're meeting in person. But yeah, so we basically, when an access complaint comes in, I try to figure out who has jurisdiction over that access point. Can we reach out to whoever has jurisdiction and can we get it resolved? We work a lot with counties as well. So for your county roads, your county commissioners oversee those. They are the only folks that are going to have the ability to alter or abandon a public right of way. So you'll often find me pop into county meetings or work with road review committees or even road maintenance if that becomes an issue. Very occasionally, we do work directly with property owners. I mean, we're there if anybody wants to reach out. We find that not many property owners do, but we are there and we're happy to do that. And then even more rarely, we work with these other state and federal agencies that you see listed here, DNRC, USDA. So I think now I've covered what we do. I think it's equally important to talk about what we don't do at PLWA. And we definitely do not condone or promote any or encourage any trespassing. That's not what we're there to do. We also do not have the authority to create, buy, own any sort of public right of way. And we definitely don't have the authority to declare a road open, a public road open, or an access point open. Again, that's up to the agency or the county or whoever that jurisdiction falls under. We just help to hopefully get to that resolution. We also don't accept any responsibility for access sites maintenance or legal enforcement. That is not in our wheelhouse. And I will say typically, again, we don't address agency management or travel plans. Those do allow for road closures and we typically respect those. I will say in certain instances, those travel management plans kind of bleed over into the public access realm when we're talking about getting to the boundaries of those public lands. In that case, we might take a look. I know Beaverhead Deer Lodge National Forest, their travel management planning is coming up this fall, so we will definitely be keeping taking a look at that and seeing if there's anything we can do to help promote public access there. So the big takeaway here is we're just trying to promote that public land rights are treated equitably and equally to private land rights. We want to respect private land rights, and we want our public land rights respected as well. To kind of drive this home, I guess I wanted to point out this one particular access issue. I'm not going to delve into all the access issues we have, but this one, and I know it's not here in the Big Hole Valley, but in Park County, Loch Levin fishing access. This is an interesting one that came to us in December of 2020. So it's been a few years. As you can see, hopefully in this picture, it's a little blurry, but there's a down sign there. It's actually face down on the ground. That's an FWP sign. So our board member who went out and took this photo, he plopped it back up on the fence there, but obviously made a little bit of maintenance maybe. And then the white line there is actually an electric fence. We've never checked to see if it's charged. We would imagine it is. It's keeping in some horses from that new private landowner that moved in right next to that easement. So what I want to point out here is this is a 50-foot public easement. It's owned by FWP. That fence is encroaching on public lands. So we had some conversations with FWP, and we called and we wrote letters and we said, hey, this is public lands. It's purchased and bought by public funds. Can we get our full 50-foot easement back? So the response we got was, we'll move it back some. It's been moved back some, and we're going to leave it at that. So this continues to be an issue. We're going to keep trying, but again, it's just going back to, we just want the public lands rights respected as equally as private land rights. So you might be asking, what does a public access investigator do? And I think I touched on it a little bit, but really I have the best job in the state of Montana. I get to engage with individuals as they come forth with access complaints and just kind of investigate, try to open the door between agencies and private landowners and the public to really undertake the initial interface work of an access complaint, and then oversee not only the data management, but all of the investigative research that needs to be done to hopefully reach a resolution. I'm also here to communicate access highlights to the community with events like these. I think for a while, PLWA was having a hard time communicating the work we were doing. So now in our quarterly newsletter, which I'll show you here in just a bit, there is an update on our access issues for each quarter, what we've been working on, letting you know what we're able to move forward on and what we need some help with. And then again, yeah, just grassroots advocacy and engagement in Montana communities. We're really trying to diversify our membership. I know our office is located in Bozeman, so a lot of our issues come from that area. I think folks are more aware of us now. So just trying to diversify our members and get all of Montana's communities to engage. This is a quick, low down, dirty summary of the access issues that we do have. There are 37 open access issues right now in 18 different counties. So 16 of those I'm actively working on. That's my day-to-day 40-hour-a-week job. I'm making phone calls, I'm writing emails, I'm researching, I'm finding volunteers to do research at the county level, anything we can do to hopefully reach a resolution there. Our oldest access complaint is from February 2020. I acknowledge that's a little ways back, but these things take time. Oftentimes folks come to us with an access issue and it can take years to resolve or reach a resolution on. We do have quite a few access complaints as well that are older ones that are just kind of watch and wait approach. Maybe they're already in litigation, or maybe the counties are already working on it, that sort of thing. We were able, my position was hired on in February of last year. So just last year, we were able to close or address 27 access complaints throughout Montana. And this year we're on par for that. In the last few months, we've been able to address or resolve 5. All right, I hope I'm not preaching to the choir here, but I just want to give you guys just a little bit more background on PLWA, how we came about, and our involvement in some of Montana's public access laws that we enjoy today. So the Montana Coalition for Stream Access was actually the organization that paved the way for the stream access law that we enjoy today. And this law, as you probably know, allows the public to move freely up and down all navigable waters below the high water. This law has been challenged on so many levels over the years, district court, state supreme, even appealed in federal court or at the federal level. PLWA has been there for the whole ride, defending it on multiple challenges to this law. So in the 70s, there was quite a number of reports of angler harassment, actually on the Dearborn and the Beaverhead River. And so finally, 2 Butte fishermen in 1979, Jerry Manley and Tom Bugby, I always pronounce it wrong. Thank you. See, I'm preaching to the choir. Stepped forward and met with Jim Getz, a young Bozeman lawyer out of Three Forks. We still work with the Getz law firm today, but these guys, or Getz suggested they form a statewide organization focused solely on expanding stream access, and he was going to represent them at half the cost. So as I mentioned, we still work with Getz law firm today. They still give us a pretty nice discount, and we're very, very, very grateful for that. Tony Shunin joined shortly thereafter, and the Montana Coalition for Stream Access was born. And so the coalition had two court cases that really set things forward. These were in 1984, laid the groundwork for stream access, and those were B. Curran and B. Hildreth. Within months of those decisions in favor of the coalition, 9 bills concerning stream access were introduced into the 1985 legislature. And so Shunin and Manley, who became future long-term members of PLWA Board of Directors, were actually assigned to a subcommittee to draft the law. And what I think is great about Montana Stream Access Law is it wasn't just anglers, it wasn't just conservationists. It was folks from all walks of life and all different backgrounds that really came together and sat down in the subcommittee and said, how can we make this work? And how can we make this law work for Montana? The next year, Gene Hawks came in. He was a former Forest Service supervisor, and he founded PLAAI. So that's our predecessor, same organization, different name, Public Land Access Association, Inc. And as you can imagine, our members really overlapped with the Stream Coalition, and that's kind of how we got started. So I also wanted to mention one more case that kind of brought forth the laws that we enjoy today for public access. The Ruby River case was at the forefront of the stream access conflict. And so hopefully, again, I'm not preaching to the choir, but this involved barriers and illegal fences, including underneath the bridge, so folks couldn't float down the river. This went on for 2 decades. The landowner actually was advertising it as private water, leased exclusively for his guests. So PLWA in 2004 said we need to do something on this, and we filed. Just a cool little side note, in 2005, there was this neat event called the Stream Access Celebration Day Float, where over 200 folks came out and floated this contested stretch of the Ruby River, which really just showed all Montanans that, hey, we care about this and we care about stream access. So finally in 2008, 4 years later after we filed, the district court ruled in favor of PLWA. This was repealed to federal court, and the decision was affirmed. Again, a precedent-setting case for defending public access against a well-funded, aggressive challenger. As you probably know, hundreds of river miles in Montana flow through private lands. Oftentimes, the only access point to get on those is a public bridge. So up until 2000, all we had to go off was an attorney general opinion in writing that said a bridge and its abutments are part of that public highway. It wasn't until the Ruby River case that finally somebody put forth a bill in legislature in 2009 for the bridge access law, allowing stream access at public bridges for legal recreation. So again, a county road 60 foot, just because it might get thinner at that bridge, but that public right of way remains the same. So therefore we have stream access wherever we have a public road. So that's some of the history of PLWA. I did want to point out we have many other notable wins. If you're interested in the work we've been doing or the work we're working on now, you can go to our website, check out all of that past access issues we worked on, including the ones we're working on right now. In state school trust lands prior to 1988, you used to have permission to use. We helped to open those lands up to the public. Also, Bodle Road and Jones Bridge. This is an area that currently provides access to the Fishkin Lake Wildlife Refuge in over 900,000 acres. Salmon Ranch Road opened up. You can now actually walk from Rocky Mountain Front to Flathead Lake entirely on public lands. And that was all that part of that was opening up Salmon Ranch Road. And then of course, we're big components of Protect Habitat Montana. So hopefully I've got a few of you hooked or interested at least. If you're interested in helping or becoming a public access advocate, we would love for you to become a member. As I mentioned, we're trying to diversify our membership. If you do, you receive our digital newsletter quarterly. It's a $20 annual fee. And then you will get monthly member updates, action alerts during legislative session, news releases. We don't try to overburden the inbox, just trying to let you know what's going on. And if you want to get involved, that's up to you. You're also able to vote in our annual meeting elections and run for positions within the organization. So I think it goes without saying your membership fees obviously help us to sustain our efforts in promoting public access, doing outreach events, and of course, fighting legal cases if that comes about. If you're not ready to commit, that's okay. You can still sign up for our quarterly newsletter for free just on our website. It'll let you know what we've been working on, talks about events we held in the past and events we're going to be holding in the future, the access issues we're working on, and any ways you can help if you're interested in doing so. If you own a business or you know somebody who owns a business, we'd love to become a partner with any organization that shares our common goals, which is simply to help raise awareness and generate excitement about public access. It really helps us to pool our resources and ideas. This is a short list of some of our partners that has grown this year. We've been holding brewery events all throughout Montana, just trying to get the word out. So if you're interested, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to grow that list. I wanted to talk to you guys briefly about our new program. We soft launched this last year, and we're actually going out in communities and canvassing for this program this year. So it's the first program of its kind that we know of that really is meant to address access issues here in Montana. So it's our access issue reporting system. And what it is it's here. It's a little placard here, and we're asking folks in fly shops or gun shops or outdoor stores, or really anybody who wants to get involved, to provide this on their checkout station or as you're leaving their business. And it has a QR code that folks can scan. It takes you directly to our website, and it'll let you directly report an access issue to me. So we're hoping to streamline the process a little bit. We're also hoping to provide central points for registering access complaints, just letting folks know that there is somewhere that they can register these, and there are folks that are interested in investigating these. Eventually, we're looking at hopefully creating an app. You could be in field, plop a point down. I'm saying you're next to a no trespassing sign, but we have big hopes and little resources right now, so we're still working on that one. If you're interested, you can always become an access ambassador or a volunteer. We're always looking for folks who want to promote what we're doing, and we're happy to promote what they're doing as long as it's in the public access realm. Volunteer commitment, it is totally up to you. If you want to become a volunteer, it's very minimal. Typically, we're asking folks, hey, can you go to your county and do some research for us? Or can you attend a county meeting and report back to PLWA and what happens? So many ways to volunteer, and the time commitment is based on your own schedule. Does the Watershed Committee have a license plate? Okay, good. I always skip this when we talk to GDTU because they've got the run on. But no, if you guys are doing your registration and you want to make the decision a little bit easier, there's only about 300 choices. So the Montana Public Lands plate, it looks black, but it is actually forest green. I have a sample here if anybody wants to check it out. And of course, all proceeds go to safeguarding public access in Montana. The last program I just wanted to talk to you guys about and shoot out there is we last fall launched our first ever public access investigation certificate program. That's a mouthful, so we call it the PACE course. This is a remote course held in the evening over a month. So it's 2-hour classes, 1 a week for 4 weeks. And so we had our first course last fall, 10 graduates. We got great and excellent feedback, so we're tweaking a little bit, and we are actually launching our spring course on March 20th. If you're interested at all, this is something you could get involved in. We have a couple more spots open. We expanded it to 15 spots. So if you have the next couple of Tuesday nights free, please feel free to let me know, and we can hopefully get you signed up. If not, we're hoping to continue to run this course twice a year. And our goal here is really to educate the folks who are attending about how to investigate their own access complaints and be public advocacy advocates in their own community. So we talk about things like Montana's public access laws, federal public access laws, as well as we go over the anatomy of an access complaint, how to be an advocate, and then we kind of wrap up with data dumping a bunch of resources, how to reach out to the proper authorities, look at mapping. We go through just all sorts of researches, record investigation, where to find what you're looking for and who to contact. So that's all I have for you today. I feel like that was a lot, but again, a big thank you guys for having me here again. And also thank you to all those who have supported us in the past or have had interest in PLWA. We couldn't do it without you guys. And thank you for all the Big Hole Watershed. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now or in the future. I brought business cards. Please feel free to reach out. We are headed to BHA Rendezvous this weekend, so hopefully we will see some of you there.
Any questions, folks? I have one about, I'm curious about as the forest moves into their planning, rec management, how you see that, I guess your engagement, participating in that, or is there preemptive stuff that you all can add into that conversation as it moves forward, sort of looking at potential access issues before they're an issue and just getting those into the conversation?
Yeah, I think there's a few areas that we're looking at where there seems to be conflicting documents about what, how one can access those public lands, so we have a Forest Service, let's say, visitor map in the office. That's the least restrictive, but we also have an executive order, I believe in 2020, that says no off-road travel. So it's just a little bit conflicting. So I think we're just hoping for some clarity on that, mostly for the public to know how they can access their public lands. But again, we're not in the business of telling, an agency how they're going to manage their lands. We just want to ensure public access. And I think there are some areas, recreation has changed and access has changed with new landowners. So what used to be you could drive right in is now a 16-mile hike. And so a family who's been hunting up there for 50+ years, grandpa can no longer get back there and hunt, and that's unfortunate. Looking at how the travel management plan can help resolve those types of issues, I think PLWA will have a little bit of interest in that. Yes, sir.
I've been involved in access issues in regards to the general public. Back one issue that comes out is that there is an coordination in the agency and the road planners and the maps, and they have to get their approval. People really don't know where they go, and it's very important to look into the road planners. In the field, the people that want access. Because it will take the edge off issues because no one really knows where to go, when they go, how they go. And so the agency people you have to work.
We worked together in like 2005 and we just.
Yes, I have. Yes, the federal man. There would be a lot of issues. Also just jurisdiction. Lines on the map. You should be a random traveler. Well,
Won't even put anybody on the spot.
Yeah, I know I'm kind of with this. I use Hunt on X a lot. Have you seen like a big kind of jump in people getting places maybe that they're not supposed to going across like private land because there's a road on there on, Hunt on X. But it doesn't say it's closed, so I'm just going to go that way.
Right, and yeah, it's unfortunate that, Onyx doesn't distinguish public county roads. I mean, that would be a feat in itself just because you'd have to have every documented easement there is. But we have run into cases where Onyx is just wrong. We've had trailheads and all sorts of issues where it's showing what looks like a public easement or the border to Forest Service or BLM lands isn't quite right. And so we have had folks that have run into issues using it. And luckily, I know there's some folks internally through Forest Service that have contact with Onyx. And so there's in certain national forests, they can go, hey, can you verify this or reach out to them and let them know this is wrong. But a lot of times it's, kind of an SOL situation. Yeah. Yeah.
They say there's trail.
Yeah, all the time. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, I think it's such a great resource. But when it comes down to it, it's not the end all be all. We use a lot of mapping resources when we look into investigations, and that might be a good starting point for us. But it's definitely, it comes down to you gotta go to the county level or, the agency level to really get it right.
I'm confused though, but isn't that public? Aren't they just grabbing freely available public data that in theory is like updated, regularly? So they're taking whatever the agencies are putting out as the most updated. That was a little bit surprising.
They don't always have like updated travel planning maps. So, sometimes they're just pulling like.
Yeah, they're just pulling like cadastral data.
Older.
They haven't updated,
No, yeah.
they like
Yeah.
updated one.
We try to catch up stuff when we see it, but it just, it's like a scale issue, you know, and it's so cool that all that data is available.
Yeah,
But there's a scale issue to try to keep up with it.
okay. That's interesting.
Yes, sir.
Have you had any issues like the one that you showed on the slide there where the fence across, so one's gonna go? Is that,
I don't know if often is the right word, but we have had happen, especially here in the Big Hole Valley. I mean, I think hopefully we're all aware, there's quite a few bridge abutments that are pretty guarded up here on the Big Hole River. And we've had several landowners come forth and put ways for folks to get around, because part of, your public access rights is if somebody needs to keep in cattle and strings up a fence across it, that's legal. But you also, as a member of the public, have a legal right to go around that fence to get back in on the water. To a reasonable extent, I mean, paraphrasing here, but so yeah, we have seen that. All right, well, thank you guys.
Awesome, guys.
Oh,
Go ahead, sorry.
No,
What's the status of the cross boundary access to them?
like corner crossing, is that wrong? Oh goodness. No, we're watching it closely, we're gonna see what happens, but I haven't been watching it so closely I can give you an exact update. I think they're still figuring out. I think the last I heard, the landowner was claiming like billions in damages or something. Yeah, but, all right, well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Wow, we're gonna get out of here. Thanks, everyone. I've got nothing. Our next meeting is weeds on April 19th. And we have our work cut out for us to run. Bear with us. You all have a great month. And we'll see you next time. Thanks very much.